Hi, all. Welcome back to Highs and Hues. This is session 12, y'all. Session 12. And it is our last session of the month. But it's okay because we celebrate our history and our heritage year round. So it doesn't even matter that Black History Month is about to be over, but it is still a little bit sad to think about. So yeah, just a heads up. Thank you. Well, first, thank you so much for being a member and for continuing to support me and this organization. It really means a lot, and I really appreciate you all. There's a lot of work that goes behind this, so it's nice to have support, like support and also financial support. So thank you so much. Just a heads up, the first week of March, so March 6th, we'll be taking a Highs and Hues break, and we'll be back on the 13th with a game night. And then the week after that, we'll have an actual Highs and Hues session. And then the week after that, we'll be having a talent show. So the game night is just for our members. And then I look like I'm going bald. Uh-oh. The Highs and Hues the talent, no, the game night is just for our members. And then the talent show will be for everybody. Okay, so remember those things. Of course, I'll post things in the Patreon to remind you of those two things that are coming up, but I just wanted to plug it here as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started into our presentation for today. I'm going to, you already know the drill, share my screen. Share. Here we go. Present. All right, so like I said, this is the last week of Highs and Hues. Well, not of Highs and Hues, but the Highs and Hues history segment, I guess, for the month of February. And you know that our theme for this month has been power and all the nuances and all the intricacies that come with power. So we talked about first week we talked about power and oppression, so that you all can have an understanding on what power can look like on both ends, like what white power is, and then we moved into the second and third week. We talked about what Black power is, and different ways that we have continued to show that historically. So we talked about the Black Panther Party. We talked about the Black Arts Movement. We mentioned some other organizations, SNCC. We talked about the Congressional Black Caucus. All these different organizations that worked to empower and liberate Black people. So today, I wanted to talk about the power of Black activism, kind of to just sum up all the things that we talked about. So, the movements and the things that we've discussed in prior weeks are all forms of activism. And so I wanted to be clear that as I'm teaching and as this organization works to educate, we also implore you to be activists, and we implore you to be mobile, and we implore you to not just learn things, but to do things and to get things done. So today we'll be talking about activism and why it's important and why it's necessary, and yeah, those types of things. So let's get into it. The power of Black activism. So here's a quote by Anna Julia Cooper. This is from her book, A Voice from the South, written in 1892. So she said, "Only the Black woman can say, when and where I enter, in the quiet, undisputed dignity of my womanhood, without violence and without suing or special patronage, then and there the whole Negro race enters with me." So essentially, Anna Julia Cooper, if you don't know who she is, she's an author and an early feminist. And people don't usually acknowledge her when we think about Black feminism, but she was absolutely one of the earliest feminists that we've seen. And what she's talking about here is intersectionality. Remember, we talked about that word. We talked about why it's important to look through an intersectional lens. And here she's saying, we cannot reach liberation. We cannot enter into this space of without violence and without all these other oppressions without the Black woman. And it goes deeper than that, but I think this was really advanced for the time in which she wrote it, because what she's saying is, because the Black woman is more oppressed, or in her ideology, I guess, was the most oppressed of the Black race, it was up to the Black woman to be able to basically, once the Black woman was free, the entire Negro race was free, is what she was saying. So because of that, I believe that liberation lies within understanding intersectionality and understanding that black people is just too general, and we have to be very specific. We have to call out who needs to be liberated and who is feeling marginalized, and who is suffering from that marginalization. So yes, that's why it is important for us to center the experiences of those who live at the intersections. Then we can really move towards real Black liberation. So remember, we talked about how your intersections can be your class, your race, your gender, your ability, your religion, whatever. So if I am a Black woman, I'm already marginalized. But if I am a poor Black woman, I'm marginalized because of my race, my gender, and my class. If I am a poor trans Black woman, I am marginalized because of my race, my class, my sexuality, or my gender. And I think I'm missing one, but yes, you get what I'm trying to say. So it continues to add up onto this, and it creates this matrix of domination that we talked about earlier in the series, or in the segment of history. So I want you to all think about the All Black Lives Matter movement. If you haven't heard about that, the All Black Lives Matter movement is a movement, is kind of like a baby of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it was created because the experiences of queer Black people were not being acknowledged in the Black Lives Matter movement. Although the Black Lives Matter movement, or I'm gonna call it BLM because it just takes too long to say, because BLM was founded by three queer, I don't know if all of them are queer, but I think like two out of the three are queer Black women. And then the movement began to only focus on the Black men who were being murdered at the hands of police. Other Black community, or other people in the Black community, began to feel like their experiences were going unheard and being erased. And so that's when the All Black Lives Matter movement was created, because we cannot say that Black Lives Matter if we do not think about all Black lives. Okay, we cannot be selective in who we want to save. We just can't. So like I said, the All Black Lives Matter movement is more of a focus on the sexuality and gender component of the BLM movement. It's really focused on trans lives, queer Black lives, and those who are murdered daily because of their race, their gender, and their sexuality. So it had to be created because people were not understanding the fullness of who was really being hurt. And not taking, this is what my professor always says, this ain't the oppression Olympics, okay? It's not who was oppressed more or who was hurt the worst. It's not about that, but it is about inclusivity, and it is about acknowledging the experiences of all people, which is why the All Black Lives Matter movement is so important. So I did want to state that only when the most marginalized person is centered can we reach true liberation. And that's what Anna Julia Cooper was saying in a more specific way. She was talking specifically about the Black woman, but to make it more general, the only when the most marginalized person is liberated can we all be liberated. And I hope that makes sense. I'm going to repeat it throughout this session just because it is so important for you to realize, like, once the poor, Black, queer, disabled woman or non-binary person is liberated, we all can fully reach liberation. I hope you understand what I'm saying when I say that. So I have a video. This is from the an All Black Lives Matter movement in Hollywood, I believe. And I want to highlight specifically something that one of the attendees of the protest had to say. We stand together in unison. All Black lives matter. None of us will be free. What you are here today? What brings me out here is being the embodiment of an intersectional Black femme.
wanting to support that all Black lives matter, no matter what. We're here to show solidarity today and also to celebrate the movement and the embodiment that we are due to the legacy of our ancestors. Black lives have been marginalized and not been included in the conversation in the ways in which we have made a huge dent, not only for the civil rights or Black freedom movement, but we've also made a dent when it comes to all advancement of LGBTQIA people.
Yes. So when the video first comes on, you hear the person with the mic. She or they. I'm not sure of their pronouns or whatever, but you could see that they say, until all Black people are free, none of us will be free. So that's essentially what I'm getting at is the importance and the power in taking an intersectional approach to Black activism. We can be activists all day long, but if we're not mobilizing for all people to be liberated, then we're not working effectively. And that's just what it is. So let's move on. Okay, so now let's take this idea of having to liberate the most marginalized group of people first. Let's take that idea and consider that as it relates to our Black youth. Our Black youth are the most vulnerable, if not one of the most vulnerable populations in the country. And so it is important for their liberation to be put at the forefront. And I think it's just super important. And it's that the black people and Black youth in particular are a vulnerable population, but also a very powerful population. And we've seen them at the forefront of all of these movements that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks. And Mark Lamont Hill, he has a really powerful segment where he's talking about the difference between a riot and a rebellion. And when like I said, we have to center the experiences of young Black people and acknowledge their struggles and acknowledge their agendas, because at the end of the day, their livelihood is what's most important. They're the ones that are going to have to live in this world. So it's important that we put their experiences first and that we honor their experiences. And if at any point a young person feels like their struggles and their needs are being neglected, that's when rebellion happens. That's when revolution manifests itself. And that's what Mark Lamont Hill is getting at. And we'll play the video in a second. But yeah, it's just really important and that we don't overlook Black youth because they are youth. They know at the end of the day, kids know what they're talking about. They know what they want. They know what they don't want. And we cannot erase how they feel and how they interpret things and what they need just because they are young. And when we do that, like I said, when we do that and when their voices go unheard and when their needs are not being met, that's when we see rebellion. That's when we see revolution. And that's why so many young Black people are leading these social movements that we have seen historically for decades. So I did want to watch this video.
First of all, these are not riots. Riots are irrational, they're random, they're just brutal acts of violence with no rhyme or reason, with no purpose. These are rebellions. Rebellions are organized acts of resistance against an unjust system. What's happening in Minneapolis is no different than what happened in Detroit in 1967, what happened in LA in 1992, what happened in Ferguson in 2014. What's happening is people who have finally said, we have had enough and we are going to do something about it. People say, well, why now? Because we're tired. Black death happens every day. If Black folk rebelled every time something happened that should not happen, we'd be rebelling all day. But we don't do that. But there comes a point where you've had enough. And right now we're at a moment where we can't turn on the television, we can't go to social media without seeing somebody who looks like us put down like a dog, killed by the state, killed by random white citizens, just because we're committing the crime of being Black and outside. We're tired of it. We're tired of being one phone call away from a disgruntled white woman with an unleashed dog from being sent to a lynching. We're tired. We're tired. And the problem is, y'all don't listen until we do something. Martin Luther King said, the riot is the language of the unheard. Well, these rebellions are the language of the unheard. This system does not listen to Black Death. Black Death is ordinary. Black Death is common. No other race is on the news or on social media getting killed day after day after day without any warning. Only Black folk. So the reason why we have to do this is to get the nation's attention. And how do you get the nation's attention? By damaging their property and by making them feel as unsafe as we feel every single day. Now, that's not to say we should go around killing people. That's not to say we should just burn stuff up just to burn it down. But every once in a while, we have to make our voices heard. We have to make our pain known. And sometimes that means stopping a cog in the wheel of capitalism. Sometimes that means shutting down a Target. Sometimes that means stopping the status quo. When people say, oh my God, they're looting, they're stealing. That's the same outrage we feel by exploitative business. That's the same outrage we feel when a government is willing to open up the country as soon as they realize there's only Black folk dying. The same unsafety and vulnerability that y'all are feeling right now, we feel every day. So we rebel so you can feel our pain. We rebel so you can understand that enough is enough. We tried sitting in. We tried chanting. We tried singing. We tried rapping. We tried hashtags. We ran marathons so you listen to us. And you don't listen until you feel some of this pain. People are saying, well, you're destroying your own neighborhoods. Look how irrational these people are. Again, stop framing Black people as irrational. We're not destroying our own neighborhoods. That Target might be in the hood, but we don't own it. Those businesses might be in our neighborhoods, but we don't have a financial stake in them. The truth is, our neighborhoods have been occupied and colonized since we've been here. So when we are pushing back and burning stuff down, and when we are destroying things, it's not because we don't have a plan. It's because y'all haven't listened to plan A or plan B or plan C or plan D. So by the time we get to this stage, this is all we have left. So if you want there not to be rebellions, if you don't want to see these cities on fire, then listen to us when we tell you we're in pain. Listen to us when we tell you we're vulnerable. Listen to us when we tell you we're unsafe. Listen to us when we tell you, America, you've got to do something different, because if you don't, everybody's going to experience what it's like to be in America.
Okay, so a very passionate take on riots versus rebellions, and why Black people respond the way that we do in times of unrest. You know, like he quoted Dr. King, who said, you know, the riot or a riot is the language of the unheard. That's absolutely the truth. You know, when we like he named everything. When we do when we hashtag, when we sing, when we rap, when we do subtle, more politically correct or respectable ways of activism, it's not received. Civil disobedience isn't received. So when we choose to be uncivil, or savagery, as they call, or irrational, as they like to say, that's looked down upon. But the truth is, we are just trying to make people feel as vulnerable as we feel, because you didn't respond to it in any other way. So essentially, what I'm getting at is when the people who are most marginalized are not at the forefront of these movements, or at the forefront of new legislation, or who are not allowing, whose voices are not being heard, that's when rebellion happens. That's when activism happens. And unfortunately, activism really only happens out of a time of unrest, but and that's just because the conditions are poor. The conditions for Black people are mediocre. They're average, and we're tired of it. So as a result, and as a response, rebellion, revolt, rioting is what happens. So I thought that was an important clip to add, just because I know this is for the youth that are watching this. Sometimes you'll hear older people, or our older activists, or older family members or whatever, speak down or look down on young people who are out in the streets, really trying to make change. And it's because they're not doing it in a way that is civil, like I said earlier. But racism isn't civil. Racial injustice isn't civil. And sometimes we got to do what we got to do. So I wanted to encourage you to do what feels right, and do what you feel is going to make a change. That's really it. So yeah, I wanted to give you all a few ways to like be activists, or to be activists out like during a pandemic, because of course protesting isn't completely safe right now. So what are some other things that we can do to really demonstrate this power of Black activism? There is power in our activism. When our voices are heard, change does happen. And so it is important that we continue to speak up. Remember, Audre Lorde told us our silence will not protect us. So we might as well open our mouths. We might as well be active, because it's not protecting us anyway. So some things that I thought that would be helpful, so that we are not what I call app activists. We don't want to just be activists on social media, activists on Instagram, activists on Twitter. What are we doing outside of that? Sharing a post is like the most basic thing you can do, but how do we take it up a notch? Okay. So we can definitely use social media as a resource to post conscious content, or to post things that are happening in the world, but we can also, if you have the opportunity, protest when it's safe. Call your Congress reps, figure out who those representatives are. If you want to do that and you need help, I will help you. If you can email or write letters in your reps to advocate for certain legislation. They work for you. They work to represent you. So if they don't hear what you need and they don't hear what you want, they gonna vote for what they think is right, or what they think the people want, and then they do it, and then that's not even what we wanted for real. So it's important that we are not armchair revolutionaries. We're not gonna sit back and let somebody else do the dirty work for us. No, we are not app activists. Okay, did I put that? Let's see. Yeah, here it goes. This is why we can't just be app activists. It's important that we take it a step further. And sorry, y'all. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to just encourage you, and want you to know that it is important that we make ourselves knowledgeable, that we educate ourselves, but we also have to put it into praxis. It's what I like to call theory and praxis, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But I did want to show y'all this video.
Young people have helped drive social movements around the world. From protesting the established order to furthering new ideas, youth are often on the front lines of political and social transformations, hoping to make the world a better place. Reasons for youth participation in movements vary. Compared to adults, youth often have larger social networks, which can serve as conduits for the transmission of ideas and mobilization. Young people are also more inclined to be innovative in their use of media. They may adopt the latest technologies to help spread their message and mission. Also, youth may have more time and bandwidth than older generations, giving them a greater chance to take risks and fight the status quo. Altogether, reasons such as these make youth participation in social movements an incredibly powerful element.
Yeah, so the video touched on three important pieces. Not black people, but young people have larger social networks sometimes. We are in school, we might have extracurricular activities, we have friends on social media. So our bandwidth and our range, our reach, it can be a little bit wider sometimes than older people. And so it's important that we take advantage of those networks, we take advantage of those connections to spread activists mindsets, to spread a mindset, and to spread truth, and to spread knowledge. In addition to that, we are innovative. Black culture, or young Black culture, is what pushes American culture. It is American culture. There is no American culture without Black culture. And so so we have the tools, and we have the creativity and everything that we need to really be unique and to be creative in the ways that we can mobilize, in the ways that we can be active. And then finally, we have more time. Like, most of us don't have children at this age. Most of us are not working real 9-to-5 jobs. We don't really have families that we have to care for. So we have time to be at protests. We have time to be on the front lines. We have time to repost things. And so we take advantage of this time, take advantage of this luxury of leisure, and do something with it. Rest when you need to. Of course, I'm not encouraging anybody to overwork themselves. However, I am encouraging you to take advantage of the free time that you have to progress your Black people forward and to progress Black people toward the state of liberation. So this is what I was talking about earlier, just the combination of theory and praxis. And this is I'm closing. As I close, I sound like a pastor. So like I said, we are not armchair revolutionaries. We are not activists. We take the knowledge that we learn and then we put it into practice or practice. Praxis and theory is a concept developed by Paulo Freire. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's an author. He wrote The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and it's literally a book on how to teach oppressed people. And it's a great piece. And what he's telling us, in that book, he talks about, the importance of educating our youth and our youth educating us. But once we do that, both of us need to be out and being active and being mobile and pushing agendas and really trying to change the world that we want to live in, change the country that we want to live in and that we want generations behind us to live in. I know I don't want my future children or future nieces or nephews or cousins or whatever to live in the same state that we are living in right now. And I know that my ancestors thought the same thing. They worked so that I could live differently than they did. So I think it's important that I acknowledge the fact that this organization for the Black kid, yes, we focus on history. Yes, we focus on holistic wellness, entrepreneurship, innovation, circulating the dollar. But we also want to educate you on how to be active in your communities and how to stand up for your community and how to be mobile outside of just your phone. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else. I guess I'll maybe make a separate post about it. Just some affirmations. We are young Black activists. We are young Black revolutionaries. Because of this, we don't have the luxury of complacency. We are creating the world that we want to live in. Period. I'll say it again. We are young Black activists. We are young Black revolutionaries. And because of this, we don't have the luxury of complacency. We are creating the world that we want to live in. Each day that you have breath in your body is an opportunity for you to work to create the world, the place, the community that you are proud to be a part of. I think that was the end of my presentation. So I'm going to come back to you all and stop sharing my screen. I hope y'all enjoyed this this series or this segment on history and specifically as it relates to power and Black power. I hope you enjoyed it. If not, I'm sorry. Give me some suggestions on things that you want. And if I can't teach it myself, I will find somebody who can. But I hope you learned something. Remember that there is power in you. There is power in your community, and you just have to tap into it. And oh no, I never put my little banner up. It's too late. Oh, there it is. But yeah, there's power in you. And our job, for the Black kids' job, is to teach you how to tap into it and to exercise it and use it to make a difference in your community. We are young Black activists. I'm pretending that y'all are repeating after me. We are young Black revolutionaries. And because of this, we don't have the luxury of complacency. We are creating the world that we want to live in. Yeah. Okay, well, I love y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed this session. Like I said, March 6th is a break from Highs and Hues, and we'll be back on the 13th. You will still, of course, we'll be posting we have a lot of content coming up before then. We have 2 new classes coming up in March, so stay tuned for that, and some other cool things. So yeah, just stay tuned. Thank you all so much. I love you, and I am grateful for you. And remember who you are. Remember the revolutionary that you are. Remember the activist that you are. And also remember, play nice. All right. Peace. Love y'all.